It's the Doscinco Project.
Money pouring in, clientele growing down.
With your host, Doscinco.
Let's go!
What up, everybody? You are now tuned into the Doscinco Project, where we talk about business, entertainment, motivation, and mindset. I have another special guest with us in the building today. He is the radio host for Q102 Philly's night show, weekdays from 7 to midnight. He has worked in radio in Detroit, San Antonio, Memphis, New York City, and even Dubai, where he worked with Radio 1. He also has a podcast called Get Your Life Together, where they have conversations about real life situations that most people only talk about in the privacy of their own homes. Fun fact, he got his name, or his infamous name, should I say, by beating a man that was 350 pounds in a chicken nugget contest. Everybody, please welcome Nugget. How you doing today, sir?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, thank you so much for being a guest on this show. I really do appreciate it. So let's jump into the way you got your name, right? So your name's Nugget.
Yeah.
How many nuggets did you have to, eat in order to beat this 350-pound behemoth?
This is a long time ago, and I was like a skinny, weird-looking kid, and I interned for this guy.
Okay.
And one day we were watching The Hills and smoking, and he was like, dude, I bet I can eat more than you. And I was like, actually, I don't think you can. So we ordered a bunch of chicken nuggets. We ordered like 200, and I ate 79, and he had like 50-something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And a large shake.
And a large
Yeah.
shake.
Yeah.
So
I didn't play around. And what's crazy is we both lived in New York City together. We were going to shoot a pilot for a show that was about famous buffets, and the whole thing was going to be like he was going to walk in and they were going to be like, oh shit, and then I would end up eating more than him. And that was going to be like part of the thing, but we never ended up. We all left New York before it happened.
Have you ever been to the Wing Bowl in Philadelphia?
No, I've heard about it. I moved here, I think, after it was over, because what happened? Everybody just started like punching each other in the face. What happened? I don't know.
Well, Philadelphia is a little chaotic sometimes, especially when it comes to sport. We can turn anything into a sport and make it crazy, But I remember one particular year, there was this 70-pound Asian woman that ate out everybody, but ate everything, and became champion for 2-3 years in a row. It was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always the people that you don't expect.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so obviously you're here, Q102. I grew up on the station, listening to it. What made you want to go into radio?
Oh man, I was going to school, and I was going to broadcast school, and at this school they made you do a semester of TV, a semester of radio, and then you had to pick which one you wanted to concentrate in.
Yep. And
I did that, and I just noticed I was looking at all the TV people, and they just looked like they were stressed out all the time, and they didn't look like they were having fun. And then all the radio people were just kind of smoking weed and not really doing anything. And I was like, that's a career for me. And I'm not even really that big. I'm not really a smoker.
Right.
I realized how much I made it sound like I am, but I really don't smoke that much at all. But I just noticed that everybody in radio seemed like they were having fun. And so I wanted to do that. I didn't want it to be as scripted. I didn't want to have to read off a teleprompter. And so I decided to do radio. I got an internship. And from then on, they hired me on part-time while I was going to school, and then I got a full-time job, and I was like, all right, I guess this is what I'm doing.
Wow.
It's kind of like, it's like whatever you kind of fall into.
Right.
If you don't stay with it, at some point you got to go, okay, I got to wipe all my experience off my resume and start all over, and that's not easy to do.
Okay. Now, what's the radio industry like? Obviously you've been in multiple markets, Detroit, San Antonio, so forth. Is it a very mobile type of industry where you gotta travel?
Yeah, it's like promotions aren't easy to get in the same building that you're in. You really have to, if you want to make more money, if you want to get more status in the industry, you pretty much have to move.
Okay.
And it's the same way with TV, from what I understand. Like, it's a lot of people that you start in a smaller city, and then you just kind of work and not get paid that much, and then eventually you move your way up to bigger cities, and then with bigger cities come bigger paychecks, rather than moving up within that company, because once you're on the air, the only way to move up is to go into management, and if you don't want to do that, the only way to make more money is to go to a different city that's making more money in the building.
Okay. What's the ultimate goal for you? Obviously you're with Q102 I'm assuming it's a major market, right? Philadelphia.
Market number 4.
It is market number. Oh, so it's similar to television. Because
Yeah.
I had Andrew Kozak on, your best friend.
Yeah.
You know, and he told me it was market 4 in television as
Same
well.
thing. Some of them are different a little bit, but yeah, pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, what's the ultimate goal for you in radio? Or is it radio?
I don't know, man. I mean, for me, I just want to talk a lot about stuff and get paid for it. So whatever that ends up being, that's what I want to do.
Nice.
And if it's on the radio, then cool. And if it's on a podcast, then cool.
Okay.
If it ends up being something that I didn't even think about, that's cool too.
Right. So you have shows like The Breakfast Club and things of that sort that are just like giants in the industry right now. Do you look to possibly move into that trajectory?
Man, The Breakfast Club is tough because, yeah, like they do a morning show. I've always done a morning show before I moved to Philly. Like that's what I've been doing for the last, I don't know, maybe like 7 years.
Okay.
So I definitely I like how much they are able to talk. And the thing about The Breakfast Club is unless you live in New York City, you don't really hear about them unless it's their interviews.
Oh.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Like you're not checking out The Breakfast Club just talking about their day.
That's so true.
You only check them out from outside of New York City for their interviews. And I don't know, man. I don't know if I would want to do an interview show.
Okay.
I like more of a conversation show.
Yep.
Some people enjoy interviewing more. Like you must enjoy interviewing. That's what you're doing here.
Correct.
So that's not, I can have fun doing an interview and I have, but I would much rather, like if you're coming on our podcast, which you will eventually, if you're down.
I appreciate that, man.
That'd be great. If you came on our podcast, we wouldn't ask you shit about your life at all. We would just have all these different trending topics from that week and different segments that we do, and you would just be part of them.
I love it. Now, I love that. Now I'm going to pick your brain, right?
Yeah.
So I want to move in that direction, and I'm going to be honest with you. I love interviewing. Now, the ultimate goal in the very beginning was I kind of likened myself like the Napoleon Hill of this generation, right? You interview a lot of great people, formulate that into a book, sell multiple copies, drive off into the sunset, right?
Yeah.
But I love the fact that, you know, I think I have personality, so I want to showcase that more. And I want to create more of, you know, more content centered around me and the discussions that, you know, I have with other people. So it's kind of like, how do you get to that point where that becomes the success element?
Well, you're welcome to steal what we're doing. So what I noticed was, and tell me what you think of this, because you might have the same experience. So what I noticed with the interview format, because that's what we were doing a little bit of, is if people cared about your guests, they were all in. If people didn't care about your guests, they won't watch the entire episode because they don't care about the guests. And so they're either in or they're out, depending on who the guest is. So I took away the guests for a little while. That did not work at all. We got way less viewers. It wasn't as niche, and our core audience were still watching every episode, but then I realized how little our core audience was. And so the guests just bring so many more people in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try a hybrid where for the first half of the show, we're going to do what we were doing, just our topics and our segments. And then the second half, bring in a guest, have it be more of an interview, because what I also noticed was the guests were not happy because they weren't being interviewed, and that's what they expected, because that's what normal podcasts do. They interview you. So when they weren't getting interviewed, they were like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Right, exactly.
Can I swear on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So, yeah, so what I'm going to do now is both. I'm going to do the segment. We'll record before the guest gets there. And then stop the recording, bring the guests on and go, all right, hey, welcome our guests now, and then do an interview with them. So I'm going to do a little hybrid of both and see how that goes.
I love that.
And you're welcome to steal that.
Listen, I'm on it. Let's talk about the topic of censorship, right? So obviously it's you know, it's a big thing nowadays. The way we look at the United States of America is, you know, it's a free country, as a lot of people say. But nowadays, you're judged based off of what you say, the opinions that you have, and sometimes you can be canceled by that. You being on radio, we all have our own opinions, our own value system, our own whatever, right? How do you navigate creating content in a culture of censorship?
Am I gonna mess up your angle if I say it
No,
like this?
you're good.
Okay.
I'm looking at everything right now.
I'm lucky being in radio for as long as I have because you have to. Before there was being canceled, I've always had to toe the line of like knowing what you can and can't say.
Okay.
And that has helped a lot because now that we are, and I know exactly what you can't say, and I know how to work around it without saying anything too crazy.
Okay.
And so it's actually helped me out a lot. Like I got over a lot of people, unless you're doing a political style show, like a lot of people make the mistake of getting political for no reason on the internet. And I mean, specifically in entertainment.
Right.
And so I'm like, when I see people that are in entertainment, I'm like, you're saying all this political stuff. It's not that anything they're saying is wrong or right, but when you say political shit, people feel a certain way about you, and now they're out to get you. So you paint a target on your back by getting all political in a way that's like just really polarizing, and like there's a way to do it. There's a way to be political without being an asshole.
Right.
But when you're a dick about it and you're condescending about it, people keep that in their head.
Right.
And then as soon as they can find something where they're like, oh shit, they did something wrong. They're like, now's my time to get them because I remember I already don't like them.
Ah, gotcha.
And so you're kind of, and there's a time and a place for everything, and some people feel a moral obligation to be political about one thing or another, and I understand that. But if you're in the entertainment industry and your job is tied to being able to talk, then you got to know where the line is.
So how do you know where? Okay, so if you listen to a lot of, because it almost seems as though you also have a comedic, presence about you on your podcast as well, right?
I try to.
Well, I mean, you're pretty funny. Thanks. So you listen to a lot of comedians from the past, and sometimes they tote that line where, in today's society, that's unacceptable, right? Case in point, let's not case in point. But anyway, certain things that were acceptable back then are no longer acceptable now. But we live in a society where things are ever changing. How do you keep up?
I think here's my rule that I stick to.
Okay.
The more offensive you're going to be, the funnier it better be. Because if you're going to get a bunch of eyes on your shit for being offensive, make it hilarious.
Okay.
That way, if you...
Dave Chappelle does a great job of that.
He does, but even some of his stuff, I mean, look, Dave Chappelle lately has been way too serious about some shit for too long.
That's true.
Like he'll go into this bit and he'll be way too serious for too long and then throw a joke in at the end and people are like, "Hold on, man, you just gave a little speech for a second there. That was a long time you went without making a joke."
That's so true.
And so that's why he's getting more heat than he's ever gotten before, because he'll go a while now. Yeah. He's really letting it out, which is, when you're Dave Chappelle, you can do that.
Yeah, that's true.
But when you're me, you can't.
Yeah, that's true.
And so my thing is, like, if I'm going to say something fucked up, it better be funny. And if it's not, then
leave it alone. Or edit it out.
The thing is, you don't know how funny something's going to be, right? Yep. And so you just got to, there's risks involved. But I've done a pretty good job so far of, I don't know, some people you're going to upset no matter what, but I try not to just say shit for the sake of saying it, and sometimes I fail at that, and sometimes I do a good job. I don't know. It's tough, man. It's tough.
It is tough.
But I haven't gotten too much heat for anything I've said so far.
Okay. Hey, man, listen, that's impressive.
Oh, I got in trouble with the radio station.
You did?
Yeah. I said something on a weekend show that was like me just kind of like fucking around. And what did I say? Oh, it was Halloween. It was Halloween, and this guy complained. I said, and by the way, I got this like serious email from like up top. They were like, "Hey, this is a complaint we got. This is sent to our entire marketing department. Please, like, keep this just in the company. Don't go around making a joke out of it." But here's what happened. It's hilarious. I don't care. So I got a complaint because I went on the air. And the guy actually left a voice message, and he was like, your DJ went on the air on Halloween and said, "Shout out to Satan." And I was like, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. Here's what I said. I was like, "Hey, guys, it's Halloween, and, while you're out there having fun trick-or-treating and having all, going to haunted houses and all that, just remember the reason that we celebrate Halloween is because of Satan."
I mean, think about it, right? When you look at each, and it's not to get political or not to, but if, in the world of information, if you really dig into a lot of the holidays, including Halloween,
We're gonna act like that's not the Devil's Day,
right? It's a dark place that we get
the
into.
day before Halloween is called Devil's Night.
Right. It's everything from the rituals to trick or treating. Everything, it all stems from something. You know, in years past that are now acceptable now. Let's turn the tide a little bit. Let's talk about Dubai, right?
Okay.
That was your last. I guess, job opportunity. Well, job
before here. Yep.
Yeah, Radio 1, right?
Yep.
Okay. Describe. First of all, how did you get all the way out there to the United Arab Emirates?
All right, so here's what happened. I applied as a joke.
Okay. You applied as a joke.
It was me.
Okay.
I was in Memphis, and me, my boss, and my co-host were doing a morning show there, and we were all sitting around, and I was like, hey, guys, you see this job opening for Dubai? I'm going to send my stuff. And we all had a big laugh.
Right.
And so I sent my stuff, not thinking of anything. I didn't even write a cover letter. I was just like, here you go. And 2 weeks later, they offered me the job.
Wow.
And so I had to go back to them, and I go, hey, guys, remember how we were all joking about Dubai? Well, they offered me the job, and I think I'm going to take it.
Wow.
And probably about 90% of my friends thought it was like a scam.
All expense paid?
Yeah, I mean, they flew me out there.
Okay.
Did
they at least get you settled into condo, apartment, or what have you out there?
They helped me out quite a bit. They
Okay.
really took care of me. So what they did was they, and this helped a ton, they assigned somebody to me who spoke Arabic.
Gotcha.
And they went around with me to the DMV, I guess, of Dubai.
Yep.
And figured out all my stuff, all my visa stuff, everything. Took care of it all.
Wow.
Drove me around.
So you had your own personal concierge, basically.
Took me and really handled everything.
Okay.
So I owe him a lot. And they found an apartment that a lot of the other people that worked with me lived in that made sense.
Okay.
And they had kind of a deal worked out with that apartment for us.
Okay.
And so I just lived there for a little while.
Wow.
And they really took care of it because it's terrifying when you go out there.
Absolutely.
It's terrifying.
A different culture. It's a different place. You're far away from home. So you tell your friends you think you might take the job. People think it's a scam.
All my friends were like, hey, you're going to go out there and this is not going to be a thing. But I did my research and I looked everything up.
They thought you were going to be sex trafficked or something?
Probably, yeah. Probably. They were like,
crazy.
nah, man, you're going to be on Epstein's Island. This is what's going to happen. And I was like, no, guys, I think it's legit. So I went out there and it was legit. And it was a great experience. When I first moved out there, I worked for a station called Dance FM. It was an all EDM radio station.
Okay.
During the pandemic, I got laid off.
Okay.
And then our competitors, Radio 1, hired me.
Oh, well, that was good.
Yeah. So but that dance station, it was like my first month there. They sent me out to Belgium for Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
And I got to interview all the DJs out there.
Listen, I saw some Instagram clips of Tomorrowland, and they're in like these fancy tents.
It's wild.
It's like Disney. It's like Disney World for
EDM.
For EDM.
Yeah.
And wow. So you went out there to interview all of the DJs?
I got to interview Evie. I got to interview Nora Ampure. I got to interview Shapeshifters. Who was it? Laid Back Luke. Fede Legrand. A lot of people. A lot. I can't even remember.
How many people attend this particular festival? Thousands from around the world, right?
It's gotta be hundreds of thousands. It's gotta be hundreds of thousands.
That's like Woodstock on like steroids.
Yeah, it's so many people.
Dude,
and they do 2 weeks of it.
2 weeks.
They do 2 weeks of it. It's that big.
They must be all wealthy.
Paris Hilton was there.
Okay.
Oh, have you ever seen the meme of Shaq raging out at a music festival?
Yeah. That was it?
That I was there that weekend. That was that was when he was there.
Dude, that's
and he
crazy.
came through, and I didn't interview him. One of my coworkers did, and we interviewed Paris Hilton.
Wow.
Because she was out there. She's DJing.
Oh, she was.
And she takes it very seriously.
Okay.
Like I was so impressed by Paris Hilton. She had no ego. She took a selfie with all of us. She was telling us what the best filter to use at the time was for
Dude, that's
Instagram.
awesome.
She was like, I care about this. She's like, I love doing it.
Mhm.
She
found the passion.
Yeah, like she really took it seriously, and everybody I think probably feels like she doesn't.
Gotcha.
You know,
you know what? Honestly, I think it's because of her reputation in the past, or how she's perceived on camera, where it's like like that type of life, where they don't really take her serious in anything. So
right.
That's pretty good to know.
Yeah, she was cool.
Dude, that's nuts. So you're in Dubai, you get picked up by Radio 1, and then what made you come back to the States?
It is. I could have stayed out there. But what I was noticing was the longer I stayed out there, the harder it was to come back here.
Okay.
Because why would you, as a company, hire somebody? They'd have to fly me out for an interview or do a Zoom interview, not really know me that well. I don't know them that well. Mm-hmm. Why would you fly somebody out from Dubai, pay all that relocation, when you could just hire somebody from in the same city?
That's true.
Why? So the longer I stayed out there, the harder it was to come back. I noticed that.
Okay.
And then investing isn't as straightforward out there. Investing in real estate is a lot more complicated. There are people... What a lot of people do out there is they invest in property that hasn't been built yet because that's the only thing you can really afford unless you're super rich.
Gotcha.
So you invest in something that's being built,
okay.
But what could happen is there's not as many regulations out there. So you're building. The investors could just decide to pull out, and then your building just gets half made. And now you're in for a building that's not even done. It might never be done.
Dude, that's nuts.
And that could happen to you.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that could happen. And... it's just not as reliable, in my opinion, as investing in the U.S. I'm sure there's people out there that know enough about it to where it is, but I'm not one of them.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I wasn't even, it was so much for me to wrap my head around. I didn't know if I wanted to be tied down there for that long. So I wanted to buy a house, and dating out there is impossible. So I wanted to, I'm getting old, and I don't want to be single forever because I feel like it's scary to be single once you get too old because I feel like once you get to a certain age, it'll probably never happen.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I think it's like that for women versus men. And I'm going to tell you why, and this is the reason why I say this. After talking with a few women, they all say that when men get older, and if you keep yourself healthy and strong, for some reason, age actually creates this aura around you of women are Mike Tyson, right? I mean, obviously he has his aura, and then you have a lot of the older men. If they're kept up to par, they may still have chances. I mean, you hear more frequently of 50, 60-year-old men getting with these 20-year-olds, and that's perfectly fine.
I hear you. I'm not worried about them being attracted to me. I'm worried about the psychology of me settling down once I get to a certain age.
Gotcha.
I just feel like if I could be really blunt about it, once you fuck too many people, your expectations aren't getting lower.
Yeah.
Once you date too many people, you're not getting lower expectations. You're getting higher ones, and it's not really fair to the people that you date. And it could really mess with your head.
That makes
and
sense.
Not being in a relationship for too long makes you more selfish with your time and space because you are used to having all this. You're used to just doing whatever you want whenever you want.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're in a relationship, and there's a lot more give and take.
Yep.
And if you have gone too long without it, and you get too old and set in your ways, it's way harder for you to. And so that's what I worry about. I'm not worried about pulling. Okay. I'm worried about my own. Like, mentality. I just want to be, good for another person.
Yeah.
And I think that once you get to a certain age as a dude, you could still pull, but George Clooney's marriage didn't work.
Yeah.
And he thought he found, and he probably did. He probably found somebody who was awesome.
Yeah.
But it was probably his fault.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. So I've been divorced 4 years already. I took a year off, just out there playing the field, seeing if I still got it, right? Because I was in a relationship for 16 years. It was nuts. And I'm 37 years old, man. So I started young. And, with the person that I'm with now, we've been together for about 3 years, but she just moved in.
Nice.
And so sometimes I'm fighting the inclination because I've been pretty much in my house for 4 years straight, living by myself with me and my kids. And so having this additional person in can sometimes, for your own personal view, be like, okay, you're intruding in this way, or you're doing this, and you got to take a step back. So yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from.
It's not good. It's not good.
No,
It's
so tough.
Dating out there is like, I dated somebody from Australia for a little while. She moved. I dated somebody from the UK for a little while. She moved. Somebody from France, somebody from Lebanon, and like everybody's so transient. Everybody's moving around, and then I moved, and so it's just like
doesn't make sense.
It's just not easy out there because you think you found somebody, and then they dip, or it just doesn't work out. There's a lot of cultural differences. People from the UK I cannot keep up with. They drink. Their 40-year-olds drink more than our fraternities. They drink so much alcohol. The entire country has an alcohol problem, and it's true. If you're from the UK and you're one of my friends, you guys have an alcohol problem. Don't act like you don't. But They drink differently. They just drink more consistently,
Okay.
and they're not necessarily getting hammered every time they drink.
Yep.
So I will say that.
Well, their tolerance is high.
Their tolerance is high because they start drinking when they're in the womb.
Right, exactly.
They start so they can handle it, and I can't keep up with that.
Gotcha.
A little bit of judgment, but not that much judgment on them. But I just can't keep up, and
Well,
so
you wanna
that
be
relationship
able-
didn't work.
You know, as you get older, I'm gonna be honest, the energy levels start to go down, and so you want somebody to be at your pace.
And drinking makes me sad now sometimes, like the next day. Yeah, like I don't like it.
Oh, is it dependent on what you're drinking?
No
Okay.
matter what I drink the next day, especially if I'm alone with my thoughts.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't like it. I don't like being.
As you get older, I'm gonna be honest, because I think I fight this more often now, and I never thought I would be that person. But your mind can, your mind can either be a lonely or a tormenting place sometimes. And then if you have the wrong type of beverages, it can only enhance that.
Yeah.
It's tough. And then with me, I tend to, even though, so I have two beautiful boys, right, and then I also have a stepson, right, and then I have my girlfriend, but even with all of that, sometimes in my mind, I feel like I'm alone. The reason why I say that, and I think Mike Tyson coined it very well, he says the older you get, the more you lose. So you start losing your hair, you lose your teeth, your loved ones start to pass away, or they start to move, and it becomes lonely. I think about all this, man. Instead of living in the moment, I'm thinking about the damn future, and the future is sometimes could be a little bleak.
Yeah.
It's
That's why.
tough.
And drinking not while you're in it, but like the next day, that hangover doesn't make you feel better about a lot.
That's true.
Because you feel that's what makes you feel older than anything.
Yeah.
Is how much your hangover hits you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't really been drinking that much. I mean, I'm actually starting to drink more because I realized that anytime I would have alcohol, it hit me so hard. I was like, fuck, I gotta drink more. So I need to call up that John from the UK again and be like, hey, come back over here. I need to drink.
Right.
So yeah, man. I mean, it's just something else that I think you'd like.
Okay.
From Dubai. I thought that I was excited because I was like, oh, all these women with these different accents, it's gonna be dope hooking up with them.
Yep.
They're gonna be all, yeah, cup of tea. They're not. I don't know what it is, but anytime somebody had an accent, you know how Adele, when she sings, she sounds American?
Yep.
That's how they are when they have sex. They moan in American.
You
I
serious?
don't know why. Maybe it's because they watch a lot of our shows or something, but all of a sudden they'll go from like, oh, yeah, mate, to, fuck me, daddy. And I'm like, first off, don't call me your father.
Right.
And second, what is this? I want the accent. That's why we're here. And it doesn't happen.
That's crazy.
It doesn't happen. So don't get excited.
So it doesn't matter where you are. All of the accents eventually turn American. When
For
you're
some
learning.
reason, all of a sudden they just turn into like.
Dude, that's nuts. Okay, so obviously in Dubai, I mean, you're getting all types of international women coming into the the land, and obviously your approach. What's the approach like? Are you hopping into their DMs? Are you meeting them? Are you finding them at like a bar or a club or coffee? How are you approaching these women, or are they approaching you?
Tinder.
Like, how's the scene, man?
Tinder, because all the other dating apps are blocked.
Gotcha.
So you can only use Tinder. There's a lot of prostitutes on Tinder in Dubai. It's mostly prostitutes. So you have to try to figure out. A lot of them they use WhatsApp out there.
Okay.
So a lot of them will have their WhatsApp number right in their profile. That's instant. You're like, oh, okay, cool. But some of them play it cool, and they don't put their WhatsApp in there. They talk to you for a little bit first, and then go, here's my number. And then once you hit them up, they're like,
okay, so the ones that put their WhatsApp number in there, do you automatically assume prostitute? Because
yes.
you're not, you shouldn't be distributing your number in that way, especially to just randoms,
they're
right?
always prostitutes.
Gotcha.
Anybody putting their number in there is a hooker.
Okay.
So, yeah, they will do that, and then you get through it, and you figure out some real people. And since there aren't any other apps, everybody's on Tinder. Yep. So you talk to people through that, and I met a lot of really great people off Tinder. Okay. I met a lot of really cool people. I'm trying to think. There's maybe a couple people that I met out going to bars and stuff. Interestingly, man, I think it's because I'm not really flirtatious enough, and I'm trying to get better at that. Like, I have a bad habit of talking to women the same way I talk to everybody.
But that may not be a bad thing.
In some contexts, it's not a bad thing, but in some, like, it just, because you're not flirtatious, they're thinking you want to be friends with them.
Oh, they automatically assume that you don't have an attraction.
Yeah, and then once you're friends with somebody, we've all noticed how hard it is. Once you're friends with somebody, once you're in that category, like, it's hard to have somebody look at you differently.
That's true.
Women and men, like men do that too. Like once somebody's kind of in that, you know, unless they're really hot, and then you're like, whatever, we don't have to be friends anymore. But like we all do that, and yeah. So when I meet people in public, I'm not thinking about that most of the time, especially when I'm drunk. I'm just thinking like, let's have some fun, and I'm gonna talk a bunch of shit.
Right.
And so without the context of we're going on a date and meeting through Tinder, I have a really hard time meeting people and having them be interested in me out.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
Yeah,
even here,
sense.
like even here, I just talk so much shit, and they just feel like, oh, this is gonna be a great friend.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
All right. So I went on to the Q102 website, and I believe you had a few topics that you talked about.
Oh God.
Let's dive deep into that. Right?
Okay.
But no, I think it's very informative. You know. So the one of the topics was the number one way you can tell that a guy is cheating on you.
I think that man. So I did this content in different ways on different platforms. So I wrote a blog for the website.
Okay.
And then I also did a TikTok, and then I also did a reel, and they're all three different things. So in the TikTok that I did, I was like, the way you know if a guy's cheating on you is if you have a boyfriend, then he's cheating on you.
If you have a boyfriend,
If you're in a relationship, that dude's cheating. And then on the website, what did I write? I think I wrote if he has a Snapchat.
Okay.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Am I right?
Yeah.
Yep. If a guy has a Snapchat and he's in a relationship, he's definitely cheating on you. There's absolutely no reason for a dude to have a Snapchat in a relationship. Yep. I'm not in a relationship. Every day I contemplate deleting my Snapchat because I'm like, I don't need this shit.
You don't even use it. Yeah, exactly.
But it is a great way. It's another place that I push my podcast clips out to.
Yep.
So I like doing that. But honestly, if I was in a relationship, first thing to go.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I think technology, period, has made it. I mean, technology can be good, can be bad, right? Depends on how you use it. But it's very tough in a relationship nowadays with the different ways of technology. Okay, case in point, right? On the iPhone, you have photos. You got a hidden folder, right? That's password protected.
Yep.
You can do all your dirt there and just leave it in the hidden, you know? People used to use apps that were considered the calculator app.
Yeah.
You just plug in a code, and it opens up your picture vault. And next thing you know, you have all your little dirty pictures from all the females or whoever you've been with.
Yep.
So and then with Instagram has the vanish mode, right?
Yep.
So in the DMs, you could secretly be having a relationship, and it's all disappearing as it goes. I mean, obviously, you can screenshot all that stuff, but they've made it easy to cheat.
Yes.
So it's actually the people that need to change their ways, not the technology.
Yeah, but I think the more you can take away that temptation, the more you can remove that. Like, for example, when I'm in a relationship, I am not hanging out with a female that I'm attracted to alone, just me and her.
I agree 100%.
I'm just not doing that.
I personally don't believe in friends of the opposite sex. That's just me. And the only reason why I say that is because, 9 times out of 10, I mean, you have a specific moment in time, a breakup or whatever, that person like Gilly the King said. He said sometimes a shoulder to cry on, be a blank to ride on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes
I don't know. I have mine.
Sometimes I'm with because a lot of people say that, and sometimes I'm with it, sometimes I'm not. I think it just depends on. So for me, I won't be friends with somebody that I'm attracted to because if I'm friends with you, I like your personality.
Yep.
And I like what you look like. So why wouldn't I want to date you?
Right.
And if we're not going to date, why would I want to torture myself by liking you more as we get to know each other?
Exactly.
And then we're not going to date. So I don't like that. However, I have friends that are women that I'm not attracted to because they're not my I think this is the only loophole. When guys talk about how you can't be friends, I think they need to realize what guys need to realize when they say shit like that is there are women who are friends with dudes that are just not their type. The same way we have females that are not our type. Like, I have a really good friend, and I think she's good looking. Yep. And I love her personality. She's not my type at all.
Gotcha.
She's not my type at all. Like, I would never hook up with her. Never. Like, I'm just not, like, her body type is not my type.
Right.
It's just not, it doesn't do anything for me.
Okay.
So there is no risk in my mind of that ever happening.
Gotcha.
And I think, and you have friends like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Where you're like, there's just no way. I know you're good looking. I like hanging out with you. There's no way. I don't like.
No, it makes sense.
There's just something about, whatever it is that you're just not my type. And we got to understand that women with their guy friends, a lot of these dudes are just not their type.
Gotcha.
But they're not. They have different qualifications. Like there's personality flaw that the guy could have where he's a great friend in everything but this. Like, I was talking to my one friend, Quinn, and she's like, I'm friends with this guy who I'm friends with. I think he's good looking, but I've seen the way he talks to women, and I'll never fuck him because of that. And that is her not my type.
Gotcha.
And so I think that dudes will not take that into consideration a lot when we have this conversation about being friends with the opposite sex. I think there's a room for exceptions.
That makes sense. Do you get discouraged, especially in, 1940s, 1950s? It was a different time, right? Based off of what we read, because we obviously weren't raised or born in that in that era. But marriage, relationship, long-term relationships, that was all promoted, right? If you deviated from that, you would be ostracized. People look at you different. Nowadays, anything goes. Does that discourage you with regards to the promise of having a solid relationship in the future?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be people, though, that are looking for. I think people are lying when they say they don't want a relationship.
Okay.
Unless they are in their early 20s. Those people, I believe. Because I didn't want a relationship when I was in my early 20s.
Of course. You're exploring, you're experiencing.
So I think it would be hypocritical for me to. Here's the thing. It's the best thing that could ever happen to 20-year-olds. It's the worst thing that could ever happen to people that want to get married. But there's people that are just relationship people. And I think there will always be those people. And you just got to find who those people are.
Okay. That makes sense.
But I think there's, for sure, I get what you're saying. There's a lot more people that would have been relationship people if it wasn't for, the relaxed standards on that we have now.
Okay.
And so maybe they're like those people maybe 10 years ago would have just been relationship people because they didn't want to be judged.
Yep.
And now if they're not being judged, they're like, well, that was the only thing that made me want a relationship. Now I can just be whatever I want to be.
Right.
Pros and cons, I think.
Okay. What do you think, as far as relationships are concerned, what do you think are like the main components to a solid relationship?
Shared values.
Okay.
Like for me, the top value for me, and it's really hard for me to find people that are like this, but the top value for me is I want to be able to have conversations where I'm not worried about I don't want to have to think about what I'm saying. I want to just be able to speak candidly,
right,
and be with somebody who I could say fucked up things with, and they know I'm joking.
Yep. And
I can, say things that I don't mean, and they know that I don't mean them.
Okay.
Not mean things, obviously,
right,
and not like being a dick unless it's funny, and then that's okay. but just somebody that I'm comfortable with, not having to think about. I was in a relationship once, and she said to me, she was like, "You talk about food a lot," and I was like, "We're done," because now I got to think about how often I'm talking about something and regulate that for you. I'm like, I'm going to talk about whatever I want, however long I want to talk about it. And if you want to talk about something else, that's on you. You can change the subject whenever you want. And
Absolutely.
I'm right there with you.
Right.
Like, change it.
Now
talk about something else.
Now I can't take the picture of my food before I eat it.
Right. And so to me, that's like my highest value. And then under that is just the normal stuff, the trust,
trust is huge.
All
loyalty.
of that.
What do you think about physical intimacy?
I think it's great.
You hear, obviously it's great, right? Because, but you hear a lot about, I think, was it Andrew Tate? It was someone online stated, you see a lot of men in IKEA with their women, right? And the women are pretty much just showing the items to the men. Men don't really care about being there. Some, right? Should I say? Some they're just doing that for the supposed opportunity of potentially getting laid that night, right?
Man.
And then next thing you know, a lot of these marriages go sexless for months and even maybe a year or what have you, when in the very beginning it was on and popping all the time. What do you think about that? Do you think it eventually dries up? Or
it's never dried up with me.
Or what's the longest relationship you've ever been in?
2 years.
Okay, 2 years.
And we live together.
Like, would you say, and I don't want to get too deep into it, we could generalize it.
But I've moved around a lot, and that's what's prevented me from having long ones. Like, there's two people for sure. There's a couple relationships I've had where I'm like, where I really genuinely thought that there was potential for marriage there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you believe that physical intimacy is a large, a large portion, especially from a man's perspective, right? The men, we want the loyalty, we want the support, right? But then also there's the physical needs as well.
It's not important to me until it goes. It's like money. It's not important until it's gone.
So you need it. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Like it's not something that is a main thing in my relationships. But if it's not happening at all, that's when you notice it. You're like, oh shit, this is probably not good.
Right. What do you think is a healthy drive in a relationship?
Man, I'd say probably like. I'd say if you can, depending on how busy you are, I think there's also
depending on how busy. Everybody's busy now.
Yeah, the thing is everybody's busy, and also there's sometimes where you're just tired. You're just tired, and you're like, I got nothing. You're like, I got nothing.
I got nothing. And men feel it too. I'm talking about the tiredness, man.
Oh my God.
But even though we're tired, it's not something where like, I'll forego it. We may forego it for a day.
I'll be lazy, man.
Yeah,
like
laziness.
Somebody was talking about me on a podcast, and they started talking about how they heard that I was bad in bed from some women, and here's what I'll say.
Probably because you were
I'm
lazy
bad.
and tired.
I'm bad. I can be bad my first time because every woman's different. And I'm still trying to figure you out. So if there's ever been like a one-time thing, yeah, I'm probably bad. But I make an effort to get better. But then also I'm just tired all the time.
Yeah.
And I could get lazy, especially if it's not. I don't know, man. I just need like some time.
I know they say so when you're young, when you're in your 20s and you're a workhorse, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have all the energy in the world, right? It's not a lot of mental stimulation that you really need. It's literally a touch and you're up, right?
Yeah.
But when you hit the 30s and when you're damn near almost approaching the 40s,
yeah, I need somebody to read me a book or something,
There's a mental component that goes along with it, right?
Yeah.
Because
I need to play chess or something, get the mental thing juice going. Yeah.
You got to get it. You have to have that stimulation.
Yeah.
I think. Do you go through that?
No, I'm good to go. Like
All
as soon
right,
as somebody, I can get a hug that lasts too long, and I'm good.
Well, I'm not saying to get. I'm saying to maintain it.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
need the mental because think about it, right? You work a lot, right?
It depends on how tired I am.
Yeah.
It depends on how exhausted I am, for sure. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the overthinking too. You're constantly thinking, constantly. You get a damn thought. Next thing you know, you're thinking about the weather for next week.
Yeah.
Because Andrew Kozak came on.
I'll be like, I'll be, in the middle of the things going down. I'll be like, oh shit, there's a recession coming. I shouldn't be doing this. I should be working.
Right. And the next thing you know, you're not into it.
Yeah. So I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think as a generic, if you want me to make a generic statement, a real general, I think probably two to 3 times a week is probably a good baseline.
I think that's a good safe number.
Yeah, depending on how much you're hanging out too.
That's a safe number.
If you're only hanging out twice a week, you can't be hooking up every time.
Right.
Like.
Do you believe that it should be scheduled, or do you think it needs to be spirit of the moment?
Scheduled. I think that you kind of schedule it without scheduling it. I think that if you're going to dinner and you're having drinks, you know what's going down afterwards. If if you're going out for...
Sometimes those drinks make you sleepy.
Yeah, but I can always, I can pull through, I can always make it happen. But I think that, yeah, I mean, you kind of... It just depends on what you're doing. You kind of know when you're making room for it. Like, if your plans are, hey, we're going to go out for dinner... and then we're going to be home by 10, what the rest of the night is going to be.
Right.
If you are going out until 2 a.m., 50-50, it just depends on how drunk everybody gets. And then if you're going to coffee and then you got work later or you're going to the gym after, it's probably not going to go down. So I think we schedule it without saying it. I think it's weird to... Actually, I don't think it's weird. I wish more people would do this, but I think I don't know, man. Do you think people like... As a guy, we would love for somebody to be like, yo, 3 p.m., it's going down, let's go. But I don't think women enjoy that.
Well, my thing is this, right? It comes down to if you're in a relationship, who initiates, the woman or the man, or is there a combination of the two?
Just depends on everybody's personality, right?
But you hear a lot. You hear a lot, especially online. And it's sad that you got to get your information online, but you hear a lot online that the man tries to initiate, but sometimes it's unsuccessful because the woman's head hurts, she's tired, she's mentally exhausted, but this is an ongoing time or an ongoing thing. And then the men get tired of the initiation to the point where they've given up, and now they're hanging out with Pamela, okay, majority of the time.
Yeah.
And the woman doesn't make the initiate. I mean, she doesn't initiate.
To me, I've never had that.
You hear a lot about sexless marriages.
I've never had this issue at all.
Well, yeah.
I've never had this. Like, I've never had a relationship
have
where.
you heard of?
Yeah,
like,
I've heard of it.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, to me, if you're a guy and you're in a sexless marriage, that's your fault. That's on you.
Okay.
You're doing something wrong.
Yep.
She doesn't want to fuck you.
Right.
It's on you.
It could be the physicality has changed.
You did something. Or, I mean, not all the time. There could be something where she's changed her mind about how she feels about you. But I think a lot of the times, like, you're not doing anything exciting. Or she's stressed. She could be stressed with work and she doesn't want to. I mean, when we're stressed with work, we don't want to. We're not in that headspace. So there's a lot of external factors. But I think that guys are quick to be like, what the fuck? She's not trying to fuck all the time. She doesn't. I always have to initiate it. But I think that. Man, I've just never had that problem, and for me, it's always real easy. Like, if we're just kicking it in bed, and like, it's easy for me to tell when a woman's down. Right. Like, you just start, the kisses just last a little bit longer, and they're a little bit more aggressive, and that's how you know. And if the kisses are real short and quick, then you're like, she's not down, and you kind of let it go.
Gotcha. Do you think that in today's day and age, where pretty much social media is raising a lot of people, including adults, do you feel as though women as well as men have a false expectation of relationships due to the fact that they have all of these mirages placed up in front of them? Case in point, a woman, and again, I'm not generalizing, but some women may look at social media and assume, if he doesn't have this net worth, or if he's not making this and he can't buy me this, then he's not on my level. Because of the false expectations that are on social media. I
think that that's a smaller amount of people than it seems like based on social media. I think there's a lot of women that don't think like that at all. Yep. And I think the people that they are applying that to are dudes that I don't know, man. When you go out to clubs, that's what it feels like. And when you look on social media, that's what it feels like. But then once you start talking to people outside of clubs and outside of bars, it doesn't feel like that at all. I tell all my DJ friends because they are kind of on that same thing where they feel like there's just a lot of people out there for clout or for, there's a lot of, like, industry women that I see dating people for lifestyles instead of for them. Like, they'll like the lifestyle and they'll date the lifestyle. Yep. Rather than dating the person, and then they go, oh shit, I don't even like this dude. Or maybe they like the lifestyle so much, and then after time they get to know the dude and they're like, oh shit, I really like this guy now, and so maybe it just comes after. And I don't know, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because that's just as shallow as me being like, she's hot, I'm gonna hang out with her. Right. And then after time being like, oh, there's way more to her than just being hot. And so guys do it just as much, but with just different things. Okay. So for us to sit here and be like, women are just trying to get a guy with net worth, we're just trying to get somebody hot. Right. We do it exactly the same amount. So, and I also think that in that circle, it's easy to feel like everybody's like that. And once you get out of that circle, you're like, that's not what it is at all. There's so many. Mm-hmm. If you want to find out how the majority of women are, just go to the suburbs. Go to a bar in the suburbs and just talk to women there. They're the coolest people in the entire world. Yep. They're looking for something genuine. Gotcha. Sometimes.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. What do you think that a man should do in order to make himself more primed for the market, so to speak? And this could be men's health. Like, what should a man do? All right, I'm going to throw a scenario out there.
Okay.
I'm overweight. I'm depressed. I can't seem to catch a break. What can I do in order? Nobody wants me.
Yeah. Well, definitely don't try to date because you sound like you need to work on yourself. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you're doing all that stuff, I mean, I think every dude should lift weights no matter what. I think every person should lift weights.
I agree with you.
Every person should lift weights to one degree or another. It's just good for you, and it'll help mentally more than people realize. It just
it's huge. It's a huge factor.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't work out for a long enough time, I get really depressed. I get really depressed. If I go for maybe a week without working out, I get scaringly like I get scared about how depressed I get. So I really make it a point to go to the gym frequently.
Okay.
So everybody should lift weights, and then if you, like just don't date. If that's how you feel about yourself, you got to feel better about yourself.
Right.
That's what I would think. What do you think?
I totally agree. I think your physical takes care of your mental. I truly believe that. I believe in order for a man to be an attractive being to a man, I mean, think about it, right? When you're out on the market, the first thing you're looking at is physical before you even, unless there's a moment in time where you meet up. I mean, you're at a coffee house when you get to know them, and the next thing you know, you're more attracted to their intelligence or the conversations, right?
You know, there's a study out that says the more you see somebody, the more you're actually attracted to them.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree. That's the reason why people tend to date individuals in their neighborhood from the school. That if you look at a lot of relationships and the way they settle, it usually came from either being a high school sweetheart, from the neighborhood, from college, or what have you, because they've been there for a long period of time.
So when I meet somebody right off the bat, and I haven't, it's a new city and we don't know each other that well, I try to hang out with them a lot, because my thing is we haven't had that much time together. We have no history, and so I just want to get all the politeness out of the way.
Okay.
And the more time you could spend with somebody, we got like a lot of time to make up for. We don't know each other from before, and so I want to get to the point where we know who we are,
there you go,
so that we're not wasting each other's time, and that can come off, it can come off too strong, and so I always battle with that, because it's like you don't want to be like, what are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing the next day? And I do that a lot.
Well, sometimes it has to come organically too, because you want that person to ask about your whereabouts, wanting to schedule things in, because now you know that the person is very interested in you.
Right, and so that's just a mistake I make. When we took a little break, you were asking me about the interview and about how you can kind of like put your personality more into this.
Right.
So here's what I would say to you.
Okay.
You ask great questions.
Okay.
You ask a lot of questions, and anytime I'm done with the response, you ask another question. Here's my advice for podcasters, and it actually works really well on dating apps too.
Okay.
So my rule on dating apps is, with every exchange, if you are on a dating app and you want it to go well, with every exchange, you give them some information about yourself, and then you ask a question. That way, they can either comment about the information you gave them, or answer your question, or do both.
Okay.
And eventually, now you're just going. Because if both people do that,
so now it's conversational.
If both people do that, you got something to talk about on one end, and then you got a question you can answer on the other end.
Okay.
So for the podcast, you will ask a question, right? And then I give you the answer, and then you're like, all right, cool, next question. I would like to hear more of your opinion. Okay. I want you, and it sucks. It feels egotistical, because you feel like I'm doing an interview. Why would I talk? But like, we want to know about you too. I want you to, like, I'll say something. So like, let's do it for the next one. And I want you to be really egotistical and be like, well, here's what I think. And then just keep going.
This is like a Joe Rogan-ish type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why he goes for like 3 hours.
It's way more conversational. Right. So what do you got for me?
Well, first and foremost, let me come to this camera real quick. That was a golden nugget that he just gave me. You hear me? No, I personally believe that, I love the fact that you stated that, you want to hang out with someone for a long period of time, so that way the mask can finally come off, right? And now the real you is there. I truly believe that the honeymoon phase, that's a real thing in a relationship. You want to be with each other. You have the butterflies and all of that stuff. But then once the honeymoon phase phases out, now I see the real you. Now I see if I can tolerate you, if I can be there, and deal with whatever and now you can get easily irked by me, or you tolerate me. It's one or the other. So I truly believe that that's great. My thing is, I'm in a relationship. We had a honeymoon phase for like 2 years, right? And then you heard about, or you hear about, people never leaving the honeymoon phase. Well, I don't think that's the reality. I don't think that's realistic, but it's, how do you continue to keep that relationship going strong to where you still love each other and you don't hate each other, or eventually become roommates? My grandparents, 65, I think they were 65 years together. They were celebrating anniversary. I don't think I showed up because I didn't believe in the relationship. They were roommates. They didn't.
You know
stand,
what though? When I'm that old, now if I can't stand the other person,
they're living in separate rooms in the house, but yet you're celebrating a 65-year anniversary. I don't agree with that.
What do you think about sleeping in different rooms?
I don't agree with that.
No,
I
like it.
You do.
I don't like it all the time.
I think you should have your own space in the house, but I think that's all part of the intimacy.
Let me try to convince you.
All right, let's
So, I dated somebody for a while, and we lived together, and I had a completely opposite schedule from her. I had to get to work at 5 a.m., so I was waking up at about 4:30, 4 o'clock, and I wasn't sleeping. And then I'm in a bad mood all the goddamn time. And so I was like, go to another room in the house. And then when our schedules didn't match up, we would sleep in different beds so I could actually sleep.
Okay.
And she could actually sleep.
Okay.
It was doing wonders for both of us. And then on the weekends, when we don't have to wake up at a certain time, we sleep in the same bed, and it's great, and you can enjoy it so much more.
It makes sense because you saw an issue in the situation compared to your sleep, your mood. And
Not getting sleep will cause more problems in a relationship than anything because you're both irritable when you don't sleep. Yeah. And so while it does feel like the emotional part of it is like, why are we not sleeping in the same bed? This feels wrong.
Right.
But the pragmatic part of it is we're getting sleep.
It makes sense.
And we are not. Have you ever not gotten sleep? Specifically because your girl can't get sleep, and she's like tossing and turning or whatever, and she can't sleep, and it's keeping you up.
Or 2 o'clock in the morning, she's on her damn phone.
or 2 o'clock in the morning, she's on her phone.
Right.
Or whatever, and you didn't sleep, and now you're pissed at her all day because you didn't sleep, and now you're mad, and she didn't do anything wrong, really.
No, it makes sense. Now that makes sense.
Thinking about changing it?
Yeah, it makes sense because of your circumstance. You know?
Well, but I think that it just depends, too, on whether you sleep well next to another person or not.
That's true.
And I do once I get used to them being there.
Right.
But they've got to be there for a while, and then I can actually sleep better with somebody in the bed.
Right.
Like especially if we're on the same schedule, like no problem.
Yep.
But
that's what I'm saying. It has to
get
be
your sleep. Get your sleep, and your relationship will last longer. Like,
no, it makes sense.
I'm really sorry, by the way. If you're this girl and you're hearing this, I'm sorry if he starts going, hey, I got another room for you. But it's at first it hurts. It can hurt somebody's feelings, but it'll be better for everybody in the long run because sleep is so important.
No, it is. It is. What do you recommend? 8 hours?
Yeah, I think
6 to 8.
Yeah, I think anywhere. I think less than 5. If you're a dude, I guess less than 5 really messes with your testosterone and messes with your protein synthesis. It messes with everything. So if you get less than 5 hours, take a nap.
When do we start losing testosterone?
Different for everybody, but probably I think. What did I read? I don't know. I don't want to talk out of school. I don't know exactly. I think it's in your 30s.
It is in your 30s.
Yeah.
So well, I'm 37.
Yeah.
So how do you know you've lost testosterone? Your energy
probably
levels are lower?
If you have like problems in the bedroom, that would probably be a good giveaway.
All right, so I still have high testosterone.
Yeah.
So I'm cool. I'm good.
yeah. So you're good. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of different signs you can look out for, and you could just get it tested at a doctor.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. All right, so first of all, this is a great conversation. Thank you. And I love the fact that you gave me that particular, I don't want to call it a nugget again, but that particular lesson, because I truly agree. I ask a lot of questions because I'm trying to get it out of you, but it also has to be conversational because in my head sometimes I'm thinking nobody wants to hear from me. They want to hear from the guest.
It's hard to get over that. It's hard to get over that.
Yeah, right.
And some people might not want to hear from you, but there's no way to get them to want to hear from you unless you're talking and giving your opinion and fucking arguing. There was a couple things where you asked me a question. I was like, this guy doesn't agree with this shit at all, but you didn't say anything. But you should. Okay. You should, because that's what makes it interesting. Anytime there's conflict, like I want to hear some conflict.
Right.
I want to hear, like I want somebody to come in here and shoot me, not in any major organs, but maybe like in the shoulder and have it go straight through. And that's a great podcast episode right there.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense because now you're showing.
Give me some drama.
Right. No, I love it.
Yeah.
Listen, man, you've been awesome this entire show, man. I appreciate it.
This is fun.
I think definitely you have the personality for radio. Do you see yourself possibly jumping into TV at one particular time?
If they give me a job, then yeah, I'm cool with TV. Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to let's talk about your podcast, right? So, So, you have a live show happening this Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. I should promote that. Yeah, this Tuesday, coming Tuesday. It's December 6th at Frame in Old City. Doors are open at 7. We're going to start the show shortly after that, and then there's an after party too.
Are you going to have one after December? Because I believe this one's going to air in like 2 to 3 weeks. So obviously that will.
We will have another live.
passed.
So just follow at Nugget on air on Instagram.
Okay.
And I think we might. I'm talking to somebody right now. We might end up doing one once a month or even once a week. We might end up just doing the podcast live every time potentially.
Oh wow, like a regular television show now. Huh?
Maybe. That is a big if. I don't know. My biggest issue with that is I just don't know if I can bring people out like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
You know what? I think create a spectacle behind it. Don't give it to them every week. Give it to them every 3 months, 4 times a year, just to see how that goes.
That's what we've been doing. That's what the track we're on right now. But there's money involved if we do it every week, so we'll see.
Nice.
But, I mean, if we did it every week, it would be free.
Okay.
For sure. We wouldn't charge people cover or anything, and we would just make sure we get a percentage of the bar or something like that.
So you say you are making money on your podcast right now, right?
Yeah, we're selling tickets to this show.
Okay. Do you have so I know you have the video you have the video content on, I'm assuming, YouTube, right?
Yes.
Do you have the audio platforms? Do you have the audio content on
Spotify,
Apple,
iTunes, everything. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Are you gaining a lot of traction through, I guess, audio downloads and
No.
things like that? So, okay, so you're growing that as you.
No, I mean, it's slowed down tremendously.
It has.
Like,
okay.
everything is just on its way down.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I've been experimenting so much.
Right.
And I think that's okay. I'm cool with making the mistakes and learning and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Does that discourage you?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it sure does.
So you put out content, you say this is the best content ever, but people are not listening, people are not watching.
Yeah, but what's nice is our subscribers are going up. So as long as that's happening, and our subscribers have been going up more,
Okay.
even though our full episode views are less.
Gotcha.
So I just got to find the sweet spot, and then I think we'll really start to grow. Plus, we've got some really loyal supporters. And so as long as we can keep them happy and not piss them off, then we're
I love
good.
it, man.
Yeah,
Joe Rogan, right? So I look up to Joe Rogan as it pertains to podcast. I think everybody looks up to Joe Rogan as it pertains to podcasts, at least to me, right?
Nobody can argue that he doesn't know how to create a good podcast that people like.
But dude, he's talking to these people for 3-4 hours. It's like, man, how can you have a conversation for that long? But
I think that's
get
too
it.
long.
Yeah, I think
if he weren't famous, that's the thing is us local podcasters got to realize he's famous.
Yep.
People want to hear every word that he has to say.
Yes.
They're not on us like that
right
now. And so my podcasts are 30 minutes to an hour max, and I don't even want them to be an hour. I want them to be probably 40 minutes is the perfect amount of time.
You'll chop it up into small content pieces, put it out on all social media platforms, and you're good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. With him, with Joe Rogan, he once said, he remembered just going on live stream, 200 people watching for a long time, and I think he has over 1,000 episodes right now. And now he's like the biggest podcaster, like I think ever known to man.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So it's the consistency.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So how do you keep yourself away from being discouraged to where you're now inconsistent?
I just allow myself to be inconsistent. Like I took last week off of the podcast. My roof was leaking and I just needed to take care of all my shit.
Yep.
And I took the week off and we got the live show coming up and that'll be content. And I'm on this now and so that'll be content.
Yep.
And it's the holidays anyway. So people are busy.
Yep.
People don't really have time like they do in the non-holiday months, and so I'm not concerned about it. I just think that consistency is important, but not killing yourself is also important.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Nugget, man, you are the best, brother.
Thanks,
I
man.
really appreciate I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate, again, the feedback with regards to the podcast. I love that. I think that's something I'm going to internalize and actually start to make.
Yeah, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm telling you how to do it.
No,
this is all based on what he was saying he wanted to do.
Right.
I wasn't like telling him what to do.
No,
but you were saying that you wanted to showcase your personality more, and my thing is like, cool, then quit asking me about my shit. Let's talk about your shit.
Yeah, no, I love it, and believe me, it's no offense taken because I'm constantly pulling from everyone, and I take from that. But I love the journey, man. I wish you the best in everything that you do. And for those that want to listen to Nugget live on air, Q102 Philly from 7 to midnight on weekdays. We got planes to catch. We ain't got time for the nonsense.
Yeah, all right, let's do it.